Migration to cloud is challenging. Organizations have built thousands of applications over the past 2 to 3 decades, requires re-architecting to run efficiently, securely, and resiliently in the cloud. Understand your workload before migrating. Let's listen to the intro.
Welcome to the OTech Talks podcast, where it's all about working on technologies. You will hear the latest tech information, and your host, Kashif Manzoor, brings together product overviews, how-tos, best practices, tips and tricks, and troubleshooting techniques.
Let's listen to the intro. Welcome to OTech Talk podcast. Your host Kashif Manzoor is with you. Today's session number is 93. If you're new to the show or you're an existing audience or existing listener, welcome to Open Tech Talks. This is your weekly sandbox for technology insights, experimentation, and inspiration with the primary objective of learning and sharing. And as the name stands, Open Tech Talks, we'll talk open. We talk lifestyle, we talk about technology, we talk the challenges, we talk what we are doing in day to day. Based on your cloud strategy and business objectives, your next steps are, the way I'm taking today's session is, because in session number 91, where we discussed workload migration to cloud, getting started, how you wanted to get started with any application or VMs or any workload which you have on premise and you're gonna move to the cloud, how you will get started. So that's the session. If you're new and you haven't listened that one, so go to session number 91 on otechtalks.tv and listen that one. That will give you the basics of that one. And today my focus is to discuss three primary vital areas in this session. Okay, we got it that how to get started. We identified the workload, or maybe we didn't identify it. Now, I thought to focus on understanding of your workload. This is very important for smooth transition to the cloud. That cloud workload assessment, or you name it, discovery of your workload, or discovery of your application, anything which you want to move to cloud. That's the key objective behind today's topic. And I've categorized into three parts: cloud migration scenario strategies, then cloud migration approach, take a workload-centric approach. Third, cloud migration assessment method. And the key objective after listening this session, we want to get out of that how we can do an assessment or discovery of cloud. And this is very important because in my current role, I'm facing this is quite a big challenge with a lot of organizations and teams, that they don't have the inventory of the right and the correct inventory of their workloads, their applications. They're all the systems, servers which they are running it on premise, and they want to move on to cloud. Now let's we assume that you, based on your organization cloud strategy or business objectives, either you're moving your entire data center or systems, applications to the cloud, you already finalize it. And now your next step is to perform a cloud migration assessment, which is based on workload. It will help you identify the right migration pattern and cloud architecture, which is required to go for the workload, right? And whether the goal is to bring digital products or services to market faster, or reduce technical debt, or replace on-premise infrastructure as it reaches end of life, or even to pressure on IT teams that they want to move applications to the cloud. All these could be different reasons, right? Now, understanding your application's unique requirements and dependencies is very important. And as the COVID-19 pandemic from our last, I think, 1.5 years now, it's right? So I will just quote Microsoft CEO Satya's quote. We have seen 2 years of digital transformation in 2 months. That's what is happening. And if we relate to some of the other research or reports, for example, IDC expects in 2021 to be the year of multi-cloud. And in that report, what they said that, okay, hybrid cloud is the new normal. And according to March 2020 report, more than 90% of global organizations will rely on hybrid cloud by 2022. And then another from Business Wire report or survey, 97% of IT managers plan to distribute workloads across 2 or more clouds in order to maximize resilience, meet regulatory and compliance requirements, and leverage best of breed services from different providers. Now, these are some of the statistics as survey guiding us where the cloud is heading. Now, another challenge which we are facing is, and I like this one, which is mentioned by from McKinsey, how CIOs and CTOs can accelerate digital transformation through cloud platforms. And they have mentioned 4 failure modes, modes which are prevailing or which are existing, and now from over the last 10 years. And don't worry, we will put all these notes in the show notes, so you can go and read the detailed articles. Now, these 4 failures, which according to McKinsey, they identified based on last decade of different organizations try to move to cloud or to adopt to cloud. One was, if we name it the 4 out of these 4, the pilot stall. Organizations have succeeded in implementing a few greenfield applications on public cloud platforms, but the value derived from these programs has been limited. This makes further progress impossible because tech leaders cannot make a convincing business case to extend the use of the cloud platform into the heart of IT's technology environment. See, the pilot stall. And I'm just a reporter on these 4 failures. Then cloud gridlock. Second one, cloud initiatives become jammed up in long queues because IT cannot build out of the automation or reference architectures required to use public cloud platform services in a secure, resilient, and compliant fashion. Third one, no value from lift and shift. The migration of significant portions of the technology environment, largely by replacing on-premise virtual machines with off-premises one without taking advantage of cloud optimization layers, has failed to significantly reduce costs and increase flexibility. 4. Cloud chaos. Tech leadership does not have an aligned vision and does not provide the required guidance or management oversight, leaving developers largely to their own devices in configuring cloud services. This leads to a very divergent approach and tooling with significant security, resiliency, and compliance risks. So these were the 4 shortfalls or 4 failures which are happening from over the last 5 to 10 years. And if we get some learning from these 4 failures, one is key business drivers, key management, decisions involvement, then just focusing on lift and shift without keeping in mind of improvements, enhancements, optimizations, right? Or doing the pilot which without any proper planning, right? So now what we will do is we will see what are the cloud migration scenarios and strategies are available in the market right now. And these are different Gartners, IDCs, and McKinsey's, Deloitte. Different companies are calling it maybe 6 or maybe 4 or maybe 3 categories. Broadly, these are lift and shift, move and improve, rip and replace, or even there are 6 types of cloud migration approaches, which are famous 6 R's. And these 6 R's talking about rehosting, lift and shift, If you're aware about these are the terms, when we say rehosting or lift and shift, mean you are moving your on-premise hosting applications to the cloud. Replatforming, it's just a variation to from the lift and shift to even replatforming involves making further adjustments to optimize your landscape to the cloud. So if we talk about these commonly known 6 R's: rehosting, replatforming, repurchasing, refactoring, retiring, retaining. But broadly, these gives you the scenario. Okay, you want to do a lift and shift. It's mean if you want to keep all your data, attachment, apps, everything, what you will do. And with the different cloud vendors are providing enhancement, different technology tools, and even the packaged apps, they come with their features or approaches which are optimizing it. So you move to lift and shift. You do the application or systems as a lift and shift. Or you want to extend like hybrid cloud, extending to the cloud, some portion, some system of the cloud. Then even there's another strategy of moving to cloud native, completely rewrite the application. Or even you want to replace with the SaaS, that okay, you just want to on-premise application leave behind, and then you will be moving to the SaaS application mods. So there are different common approaches or methods available, and that depend on your application available in your organization. But broadly, these are the common strategies, or you can say scenarios available in the market, and these are being even broadcasted, or all the big vendors, even the technology vendors, or which they're calling as hyperscalers. So all they work on this one. So today my focus is not to any application specific. We are talking about the generic strategy point of view. Even you are being in IT industry, and you are a system admin or application admin or a database administrator or even a CIO or IT manager. So these will be your common migration approaches available with you that you want to focus on it. And that's why when I was saying, workload specific, that we need to go more into workload centric. That okay, how you will be starting, rather than making it a generic, then you need to have a workload centric approach. Now, definitely. So these are our scenarios available. Now let's see our second point. That okay, second and third point I will make it together, because that's related to each other. Where we talk about okay, what are the common, when we say workload approach or workload centric approach, and then come cloud migration assessment method or cloud migration discovery method. What are those available? And this is very important, frankly, because that will drive even a lot of your decision on the migration approach. That is it lift and shift? Is it replace or moving to SaaS? So that's even dependent on number of factors on your existing application and the workload which you have. Right. So understanding the cloud readiness of your unique application landscape is very important, because that's the way we need to know your workload cloud migration will succeed before you begin even. And that's the way the most important strategy of any migration is the profiling of application and capturing their dependencies as they exist today, as they exist in your data center, because then you will be able to move to the future and take advantage of the technologies for tomorrow. So if we say workload assessment method, you can categorize into 4 or 5 steps broadly. But eventually you need to start from a business impact point of view. Okay, business criticality of that workload classification, production, dev, test, application architecture assessment. Is it multi-tier application, scaling considerations, application profiling, detail, technical characteristics, interoperability, integration, dependencies, virtualized ready, customization, support. Then some of the not generic on from a security, compliance, availability, performance, geographic, regional access, support, resources, operational cost. So these are all the generic things. And then you will go, when you will say business impact, then you need to go in a one level down. Business criticality, workload classification, time to market, right? Non-mission critical business workload, less effort to convince the business. Application architecture assessment will talk about application design, application stack, application readiness to cloud, service-based design or use of virtualization, number of users, tiers, layers, all these migration cases, integration cases, all these non-proprietary code, or you're using it, functional complexity, application DB size, number of external systems, hardware devices for integration, security concerns, SLAs, performance, audits, lack of governance, all these comes, hardware maintenance cost, power saving, operational cost. So these are the generic, right, we're talking about. So now when we will go in a step by step in a more detailed way when we're talking about so maybe you are all aware about these things, benefit of these proven processes and resulting technology baselines, what is the end of life or end of support of that application, consolidation of physical servers are resulting in power and cost savings. All maybe you're aware about it, but what I feel is that you need to have a more organized way of inventory or a discovery of your application, all that which you have in place, because that's one of the area which I'm observing it is lacking. When even in my control, when I'm working with different organizations. So some of the guidelines on that one, that okay, if you want to have an inventory or a discovery or assessment of your application, we need to have the inventory of that one, right? What app I have, right? For example, source code, what type of technologies, deployment procedures, dependencies, system resources requirements, like, CPUs, hardware. And when we say dependencies, the database name, a backup, archiving, what are the system requirements, what are the supporting services, is it some packaged apps, proprietary apps from vendors, and then if we are supporting to some technologies, what are the tools available, Git, Terraform scripts, all those things, hardware, what type of hardware you have, firewall, what operating system is on that, what other tools are installed on it, how you are maintaining it, or even monitoring those applications. Do you have central some tools which you monitor it, like enterprise manager type of things? So all these are the basics, frankly. And sometimes what we are observing is these basic information is also not available. And then if you talk about, then someone in the organization maybe is having on his laptop and some Excel sheet, and then you need to go and find him, and then some lot of things are missing. So take an example of any workload or any application, and if it's a packaged or out of the box or some proprietary application, then you need to design in such a way that you will have all the details available with you. Because without these details, application name, platform, tiers, details, without this one, then you cannot be able to do the right assessment of what is our target. Because that will design, or that will decide, okay, what I'm gonna do from a workload-centric point of view. Then when we're talking about that approach, we need to follow. So if I will summarize our discussion of today, we need to have dependencies on each application, security controls required by the application, services consumed by the application, data required by the application, the underlying technology architecture, the effort required to rewrite code and configuration and testing, the cost of cloud deployment options, the business risks of performing a migration, identifying understanding of the gaps in whatever you have implemented it, then understanding on the operating model on which you're operating, how you're supporting your business users, So these are all very important factors, and these points are basically inputs to the migration approach. That okay, if it's a lift and shift or rehosting or replace, or you wanna move to SaaS, or you wanna just go for a hybrid model, that okay, on-premise and cloud, or you wanna go a multi-cloud strategy. So that needs to drive, although it's important from a strategy point of view, from a cloud strategy point of view, your overall data center or IT strategy, but eventually this will go down to each and every application, right? Because you cannot decide only on the sitting, looking from a high level, that okay, you need to come down to each application, because that's the most important stage of any migration strategy, and that's what you need to focus on it. And what I'm observing it, and my humble request and suggestion to all of you is that start today and documenting your inventory or discovery of your existing application systems, from integrations point of view, on how many integrations exposed, what database, what operating system, which version, like it's a compatibility assessment, that what you have in on-premise, and then when it will go on cloud, what it will be. And even nowadays, a lot of cloud vendors are providing their own reference architectures for cloud, even their compatibility assessment. So it's becoming easy day to day. 2 years back, it was difficult to do all this and then mapping it. But now each and every cloud vendor is coming with his own tools, which will help you to find and map your existing application to cloud, that how it will move, or how you can get support from them to identify the right workload to migrate to cloud. So that's, I think, today we stand from a cloud assessment point of view. No doubt we need, even assessment from a cost and benefit assessments point of view. That's also one of the important component or the stage of the assessment, right? But broadly, my focus was today on infrastructure assessment, then transformation assessment, architecture, security and risk assessment. And then eventually you will land into another area where you will do a cost and benefit assessment, right? So these all will be the inputs to that one. So you need to do let's summarize our discussion for today, that while we understand that you will be following up the 3-step process, that okay, which is your scenario for cloud migration or strategy, and then taking a workload-centric approach, and then leading to the cloud migration assessment method, which you'll be following. So as a summary for today's discussion is, you need to list and prioritize applications or workload. List all legacy applications, business purposes, use case, and priority. Note applications that might be retired and those that are new or already deployed in the cloud. 2, you need to have a data classification, determine, sensitivity of data, risk and damage of corruption, deletion, competitive theft, intellectual property, risk to customers, corporations, organizations, shareholders. These are data classification or regulatory requirement, based on financial sector or healthcare or any other regulatory or public sector. Requirements and compliance, list top business and technical goals for cloud-based applications. You want to improve performance, availability, or reduce licensing costs, or having a compliance requirement. Then you need to have assessment on the application, each application based on priority list, best as possible, legacy applications, existing architecture, server, host, programming languages, database, hardware, middleware, network configuration, authentication, user accounts, controls, interfaces, integrations, interoperability metrics, even the end of life, all or from the proprietary software vendors, their roadmaps, how they are taking these applications, what are their roadmaps, Are they gonna end of life? All those areas. And then based on these 4, then you will arrive on, preliminary decision or initial decision, initial list of applications, target application that will be a good candidate for cloud migration. Definitely, then you will go for a complexity, risks, cost, or effort, or ROI, or TCO. So those are all the areas. Then you will put it into, and then you will arrive on the initial list of maybe out of 150 applications or systems to 15 or 20. All right, and then you will move on to adapt to that process, and that will become your workload assessment report. And that's what you need to discuss with your manager, being a CIO, CTO, or a CEO. Then this will feed to your cloud migration plan or cloud migration strategy. I hope you enjoyed, and it's a fruitful discussion today which we had. And when I shared with you my practical experience, that there's still the gray area is where we have seen that number of organizations have not done the assessment proper, right? They still behind on those areas. So that although those information may be available with the IT folks or IT executives, but this information is not consolidated and put it up in one place to bring it to some meaningful outcome out of that one. All right, thank you so much. Lovely talking to you as always, and please do share your feedback on OTechTalks.tv or Apple Podcasts or Google or Spotify, Deezer. So now all this podcast is available on number of sources. So it is always wonderful, and I'm pleased and humbled to talk to you. And as of today, just for some statistics, we have crossed, I think I've checked it maybe 2-3 weeks back, 36,000 plus downloads of this podcast. This is all due to you and your support and your encouragement and your feedback to me, as this is a personal initiative, and it's difficult to run, frankly, with the full-time jobs and study and all that. Sometime if you have observed it, sometime I'm not able to do weekly, but I'm trying my best to learn and share. For example, today we learned common approaches, methods, and how the assessment and discovery is important in any workload migration. It's now over to you to go ahead and work in your organization and help your executives to do the proper assessment of your.
Thanks for listening to the OTech Talks podcast, and be part of Tech Talks at otechtalks.tv. It's a turf to share ideas, insights, and innovations.